Need a new car? The Society of St. Vincent de Paul is hosting a car raffle fundraiser to raise money for their Madison food pantry, pharmacy, micro-lending program, and other services that help local families. That's right, you can buy tickets now for a chance to win one of 5 brand new vehicles. They've got 2026 Hondas, Nissans, and one Mazda. Tickets are $100 each and only 5,000 will be sold. Find more details on the cars and buy tickets at svdpmadison.org/raffle. Make Music Madison returns on Sunday, June 21st. Between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., Madison will become a stage as coffee shops, restaurants, front porches, and businesses across the city fill with live music. Make Music Madison is a free citywide celebration of music held annually on the summer solstice. Part of the larger Make Music Day, which occurs in over 1,000 cities across the globe, Madison boasts the largest chapter in the U.S. with hundreds of performances and events. Go plot your route today at makemusicmadison.org. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, it's Tuesday in the Madison Hamlet, and there's been some movement on Regent Street with some development stories. Madison tourism is going gangbusters, and for good on you, folks are offering Juneteenth celebrations. We're going to talk about what you get into. Joining me now to talk about it all is our executive producer, Haley Sperling. Hey, Haley.
Hi, Bianca. Happy June.
Happy June indeed. It's your month, Gemini. And excited to welcome back to the pod Liz Boyd, local photographer, outdoor Madison enthusiast. You may know her from her professional role as Madison Public Library Digital Services and Marketing Manager. I like that line from The Simpsons. You may know her from. And today she's here as herself, a Madisonian extraordinaire, keeping up. Liz, can you talk about yourself a little bit and share what you love about Madison?
Oh, talking about myself, one of my favorite things. So I have lived in Madison for what feels like an unbelievable 7 years already. Time has absolutely flown. I'm from the Midwest originally, a very small town in northwestern Illinois, but I've kind of lived all over. I've been in Chicago. I lived in Sydney, Australia for a little while. I was in Edinburgh, Scotland. And then I moved here most recently from Asheville, North Carolina. And right now I work, like you said, in marketing at the library. And I am kind of in a perfect job because I'm a huge book nerd. I usually have like 3 books going at a time in different formats. And I love Madison. I love it because there's always like lots of different fun things to do at any given time. And I think one of the things that was really fun to me to discover, even as somebody coming from Illinois to Wisconsin, which doesn't feel that far, but just like the time of year really doesn't matter here, whether it's cold or warm. There's like an indoors or an outdoors thing that's interesting, maybe a little quirky, maybe a little weird, and not crazy expensive either. So yeah, I think Madison is like the most engaged city that I've ever lived in.
Oh, and you keep folks in the know. Like, folks might remember you from being on the show to talk about the 150th anniversary of the Madison Public Library. And
Yes.
you're keeping people in the know. You're really connected, and we're glad to have you on the show and folks who get to know you a bit here. Let's talk about some big stories in Madison. Haley, there are big changes to Regent Street soon. After months of back and forth, community input, and long meetings on development, City Council recently made it official. Their plan. Haley, what's the story there?
Yeah, I love, Liz, that you said that Madison is one of the most engaged cities you've ever lived in, because this story is like the epitome of that. As you guys may or may not know, Regent Street, like many streets in Madison, is just in desperate need of repairs. And, you know, we're talking about everything from failing storm sewers to crumbling streets, literal infrastructure, and just an overall need to reassess pedestrian safety, because Regent Street is one of Madison's most significant roads, both in terms of transportation and recreation. You know, it's a main connector between downtown and UW. It connects a bunch of neighborhoods. And as we all know, thousands of people flood the streets every fall for Badger football games. It's a happening spot. We know it is. But as Alder Tag Evers has put it, when it comes to pedestrians, Regent Street has, quote, bad vibes, hence the need for change. And so the city has been working on a plan for Regent Street redevelopment since at least last August. This has been months and months and months of planning, discussions, surveys, that sweet old community input. And after all of this, City Council officially approved its preferred redesign plan earlier this month. And so some highlights of that plan: it extends the street's sidewalks up to 9 feet, which is up from 6 feet currently. So we're kind of narrowly squished on Regent Street. I'm sure you guys feel that walking around. It also reduces traffic in both directions from 2 lanes to 1. And it also adds 1 parking or loading lane to each side of the street. So there's more opportunity for businesses to get parking and deliveries, obviously. And a small but also critical note, there will be more trees added along the streets as well.
We love that critical note. It makes so much sense in this moment that this is under discussion because Regent is bonkers. I want to throw a couple things out there, which is Regent Street is like full of students, and it also is like full of bike shops. I got my first bike on Regent Street, which I named Jasper. It was a green Schwinn beach cruiser. But biking on Regent Street, forget about it. Like, it's crazy. That's for like really brave-hearted people. There's a lot of chaos on Regent Street, so this is long overdue. Liz, have you heard any of this buzz around Regent Street that it's popping off and fights are happening over who gets prioritized? Cars, walkers, bikers, oh my.
Yes, I have. I feel like this is part of the city process that I actually really appreciate, because there is always a long journey to get to any actual redevelopment, any actual change. People have a lot, like multiple opportunities to come and weigh in. And so like I know an earlier part of the plan, parking was reduced further. They weren't going to add in these additional lanes, but then businesses and emergency responders were like, no, actually we need them. So those things got put back in. And they were sort of reprioritized. And I think just with any city project, it's super difficult to balance everybody's practical needs while also like having that desirable look and feel. You mentioned the trees, and I'm like, that's a part of it too, you know? So like you said, cars, walking, biking, just looking and walking around that area. Like, I love Regent Street because I love Leopold's and I love being there, but yeah, it's not fun right now to either walk or drive on that street. And I definitely would not want to be a biker there.
The one and only Leopold's. But my goodness gracious, what a hot spot. Haley, the plan was approved. Is everyone happy about it?
This might shock you. No. Yeah, not everyone is super stoked about this plan. And you know, with a change as big as this one, like I had mentioned before, there's been a lot of public input, and a community survey from the city that gathered more than 1,100 responses showed that folks were truly most concerned about, quote, safety for all users, pedestrian amenities, and traffic flow, unquote. Parking was actually lowest on the respondents' priority list, which was interesting to me because, you know, the city was mentioning when they did, you know, redevelopments of Monroe Street or Willie Street, like parking was much higher up on the list. People are not as like pressed about that for Regent Street. So clearly the biggest priority here is people want to feel safe on this street. They want everyone to feel safe on this street. And one of the biggest omissions from the current plan, you kind of alluded to this, Bianca, is any dedicated bike lanes. Regent Street is a huge biker area, and this really, really sent people off. Obviously, you know, in as a bike-friendly city as Madison is. But, you know, here's the thing, is at the end of the day, a good compromise, unfortunately, it doesn't please everyone. And that's kind of what this plan is. It is a good compromise. I think newly elected Alder Ellen Zhang summed it up pretty nicely. According to the Cap Times, she was initially in favor of adding bike lanes to the plan, but then actually backed off later, saying, quote, considering the practical implications of narrow bike lanes with narrow travel lanes, it does feel fundamentally unsafe and irresponsible to put cyclists in such close proximity to cars, unquote. So a compromise in the name of safety.
You gotta compromise. You gotta compromise. So, Haley, is this it? Please, is this the end of the story for a while? Like, what's next?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's still a little bit more planning to do. Obviously, plan. But this is more or less the final design. The city is going to go through and really, really finalize things continuing throughout this year into the winter. And they hope to start construction in the spring of 2027. So we are going to be watching, listening, and living this story for years to come.
Yeah. And that is a literal sense for years to come, as you said, Liz. That's how Madison rolls, and you kind of have to. Haley, thanks for bringing the details there. We're going to keep it moving. But before we keep bringing you the local goods, let's take a quick break. All right, we are back with some news about tourism in Madison. A report from Tourism Economics shows that a record 9.65 million people visited Madison and Dane County last year. Liz, how large is this growth?
Pretty dang big. In 2024, we also saw record numbers. That year, 9.2 million people visited. So when you compare those 2 years, nearly 500,000 more people visited Madison and Dane County. And according to Channel 3000, this is the 4th year in a row that Wisconsin tourism has seen a record-breaking number, which is pretty crazy.
It's crazy. We've been that girl, but word is out. We're in the New York Times. Tourism is booming. Those are huge numbers. I should also note that Destination Madison is a sponsor of CityCast Madison, though the segment is truly produced with 100% editorial independence of our sponsors. We wanted to talk tourism. Now that that is out of the way, I want to talk about what Madison has to offer to tourists. We know it's a lot. So, Liz, if you were going to plan a day or weekend in Madison, what would be on your to-do list?
Okay, this gets me very excited because anyone who knows me knows that I am a bit notorious for having insane itineraries. I am definitely the kind of traveler who really likes to maximize the time I have. There are no naps or breaks in my itineraries. So if I only had a day or a weekend, I would do a mix of downtown and neighborhood specific things, because I think you want to have stuff that people are expecting to do when they come to a city like Madison, and then also some unexpected things that maybe they didn't know and are, discovering for the first time. And then I have to include an outdoor spot at one of my favorite hikes. So I think for downtown, I always like to take people to the Capitol building and go up to the observation deck at the top, because it has one of the best views of the city and helps people kind of orient themselves on the isthmus as well. Especially if you have other things planned downtown, you can kind of point things out from up there and let them know, this is where we're going to be going next.
Liz, we did that for a neighbor's event. We did a tour of the state capitol, but we went on the observation deck. That was my first time there, and it is a knockout.
It is awesome. And yeah, I think if you have people who love the history, that tour is amazing. But either way, you just want to show people the inside of the Capitol because it's so pretty. And then, yeah, if you take them to the top, it's even better. But you can show them the things that you're going to do after that, too. So I think it's a nice, starting point for any tour. And then for me, when I came to the city, one of the first things that I did was go to MoMoCA, so the Modern Art Museum. And so I would look at what's happening at that or what's happening at the Chazen to see what exhibits are on. And you kind of get to walk down State Street while you're doing that, stop in at different places, take in the art and culture. And then State Street in general, obviously, I think kind of fulfills what tourists are looking for in terms of just having variety of food, drink, unique Madison merch that they can pick up, take home from Anthology or Little Luxuries. I also am a boba lover, so I would be we have to stop at Lacey's. And if we want food, I would be let's stop at Lucille's or maybe the Old Fashioned on the square. So that would probably be my downtown portion of the itinerary.
Yeah, downtown is an amazing place to start. And I love your idea of like literally looking out and being like, okay, we're going to point out the places we're going. But I'd have to agree, like doing all of State Street is a vibe, and it's not like it's that long, right? Like it's very accomplishable and you get to see a lot. You can get a boba tea. And the way those little stores like really tickle my nostalgia in just the right way. And I've gotten so many coasters that have like women milking cows and people playing horns and like just Wisconsin as heck stuff. I also want to just like throw out the soap opera just because like it's historic and iconic. Place to get soaps like or Ragstock, just places that really just mean something to me from when I was here at school.
Definitely.
I love all of these picks too. I feel like I want to shout out the Monona Terrace. It gives people such a good view of the lake, especially if you can go on that rooftop. And bonus points if you walk there at night and the fountain is going. It really is kind of magical. I love it. You get that view of the Capitol in the background. And I'm like, wow, Madison's a real city. Glad you shouted out the boba. I gotta shout out my girl Lila over at Sencha. That's where I get my bubble tea. I think these are solid picks for downtown.
Liz, I know that you said you do like a mix of downtown and getting some into neighborhoods in your itinerary, I imagine. Like what type of neighborhoody things would you recommend on a day or weekend in Madison?
Yeah, so that was just the morning, obviously.
No, Liz said no naps starting now. We are up for the next 36 hours.
Exactly. So, now in the afternoon, I think moving outside of downtown, individual neighborhoods, I mean, Atwood neighborhood, obviously, I think you can't avoid. It's amazing. I really love trivia at the Harmony Grill. I think that's such like a neighborhood thing. And they play live music for the music round. Incredible. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're talking about Smarter Than You trivia with Paul Guzzi. And his music round is so fantastic because he's got pipes. That man can sing. He's been on the show a few times doing Madison trivia. So love that shout out.
He's so good. Yeah, and then I think books or reading, they have so many good like little author readings or poetry. Nice way to discover local people, but also bigger names at Room of One's Own. And then a show at the Barrymore, just so iconic. Love it. And then I'm a North Sider, so I would always be down for a walk at Warner Park if you want something that's accessible. Governor Nelson State Park is right there as well. For food, I would recommend Beer Rock. And then the North Street Farmers Market as well on a Sunday is really good. A little bit of a smaller scene. And then North Street as well. You get a 3-in-1 benefit of Youngblood Beer, Bloom Bake Shop, delicious pastries, and Cafe Domestique. All three great hangs.
And a lot of good dogs outside on the patio.
Yeah.
You love your dog.
Of course.
Madisonians, I think that's like our next place. We have to start hitting all of the dog parks in Madison to really understand. These are great suggestions and truly neighborhoody bits. When I'm thinking about where I'd take folks if they were visiting for neighborhoods, my go-to is Bernie's Rock Shop on East Johnson. I stay living there. That little area of East Johnson is beloved by so many, including me. And I just love geology. And I feel like Wisconsin has a lot of people who love and appreciate that. So shout out to Bernie's. Also across the street, of course, there is the great Johnson Public House, which just has fantastic lattes and good vibes all around. I think also like Picnic Point. Like that is, I'm going to take you there. I'm going to take you down the Lakeshore Path and we're going to feel nostalgic for simpler times. And I'm thinking of times of writing and lace and of course, Afrofuturism and rewriting history and all of the things. But those are like my go-tos. Haley, what about you?
I mean, Picnic Point is such a classic. My only hot tip there is like, be sure to read the parking signs. I have definitely gone to Picnic Point to try to relax and then came back from my walk being more incensed due to a parking ticket that I rightfully deserve. But I digress. I also love Old Brick Garden. You know, Liz, you're shouting out my neighborhood over in Sassy. It's so beautiful out there. So many of these things are free too for folks to access, which is so nice and just so approachable and accessible, just like the library. And my new thing I've been talking about on the podcast recently, but B-cycle, hopping on a B-cycle and going around the city is such a fun way to explore because, you know, even getting from like Sassy down to East Johnson, it's like kind of a hike if you're walking. And to be honest, I don't want to park anywhere on Johnson Street, so I don't want to drive. Getting on that bike and going down like to public parking or, you know, JPH, Robin Room, all of those places, such a good option to bike.
Yeah, and despite what we were talking about in the first segment of this show about Regent Street, the city continually ranks high on our bike wellness metrics. So there's a lot of great paths to take advantage of in all of the parks. And God, I'm glad that we're like hitting the tourist spots because this is so summer. I feel like it's a good reminder that we can have a great time and host people in our city. But Liz, like, what do you think the effects of all these additional tourists in the city will be for us?
Yeah, so I think about this a lot. I studied tourism as part of my master's in marketing, and I feel like a lot of places maybe sometimes don't get tourism right. It can turn a little bit toxic because sometimes the people who are working in the hospitality or tourism industries aren't always the ones who are like reaping the benefits of that. You know, the locals maybe can't enjoy their homes, or it's not as good of a place to visit anymore because the things that make the place great are like too expensive for people to enjoy, or they're just cordoned off. They're in a totally different area and they're just for tourists. And I think Madison and Dane County does a really good job of handling tourism because as a person who lives here, I feel like I barely notice tourists in the city. Aside from maybe like, you know, a few really large scale events that happen throughout the year. But then when I think about the trade-off of like the number of jobs, there are 19,500 jobs that tourism is helping to sustain in Dane County. I'm like, you know, it's probably worth it for me to be minorly inconvenienced and drive on a different road when there's like a major marathon going on, you know? So to me, I think Madison does a good job with like kind of being able to handle the impact of having so many people coming to visit. And again, keeping a lot of things that are local and really cool free for a lot of people to enjoy, whether you're a tourist or a longtime resident.
And, you know, Liz, I know one thing about you. You're not afraid to get out of the city and get around to Dane County parks. We've got to shout them out. I know that you have yourself, you set a goal to visit all of the state parks, which is so ambitious and lovely. And I don't know if really briefly, like, you want to share anything about that plan for you.
Well, I just think it's really important to be kind of a tourist in your own city. I think I started doing this when I moved for my master's when I was in Edinburgh for a year. I was like, this is really an opportunity and I need to be taking advantage of this whole experience, not just studying. And so I've done that really in every city that I've moved to since. When I was in Asheville and now that I'm in Madison, I'm like, you really have to be actively seeking out these opportunities because there's always something new. People are creating new events. There are new organizations. There are new businesses. You know, you just have to be aware and finding new things to do.
Well, tourism is up. This is good news. And we've got Good on You and Madison coming up next. But first, let's take a quick break. All right, Juneteenth is coming up. Juneteenth, also called Freedom Day or Jubilee Day, is June 19th, a chance for all Americans to celebrate the end of slavery. And Madison has a number of ways you can celebrate that I'm going to just share. And I just want to say, good on you, Madison. It's an important day. And for all employers who give your employees the day off, good on you, because I know there are a lot that don't, which, hey, I don't like that. We're getting off on Friday. Liz, how about you? Like, how's the library approaching Juneteenth?
Well, the library does have the day off, so all Madison Public Libraries will be closed, everyone. But we're going to be at the Juneteenth in Penn Park celebration, so you can come hang out with the library there. We'll have art activities, we'll have resources, we'll have things for our summer reading program. So definitely come and do that. We partnered with the Sherman Avenue United Methodist Church to host a Juneteenth film screening and discussion last week on the film The Blackening at Lakeview Library. So that was very fun. And then at Meadow Ridge Library, we're having an author talk with Terry Canfield, who's going to be talking about kind of misinformation and disinformation. And it really covers a lot of kind of like American history as well as world history about intolerance and extremism, sort of why they happen. And the first 20 attendees will get a free copy of the book. So people should come to that. June 20th, 2 o'clock, Meadow Ridge Library.
We can always rely on the library to be guys, right, Haley?
Literally, I love that Liz was just so ready to be like, yes, and the library is hosting 7 million events and you need to know about all of them and we should all be going to them.
I mean, of course, but also you can just walk into the library. Many have book displays. We have, book lists online. So there's always a way to get these resources year round too.
It's exciting to hear you guys are partnering with the big celebration. I'll just start getting into the events. Like you mentioned, the big celebration that happens at Penn Park, that's happening on this Saturday, June 20th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Madison's long-running parade and party will happen at Penn Park, and that's hosted by Kuja Jagalia, Madison Center for Self-Determination. If you don't know what that word is, that's a Swahili word, and it means self-determination. This is the 37th annual. I understand the parade is starting at 11 a.m. at the Madison Labor Temple and ends at Penn Park. That celebration is at noon. There's going to be a lot of great community, music, love to be shared there. And I did want to shout out Dante Green of the Cap Times for their listicle they published last week for 7 ways to celebrate Juneteenth. So I'm going to throw out a couple more exciting ones, which there's something happening today at noon to 1 p.m. in the state capitol rotunda. The Wisconsin Legislative Black Caucus is celebrating with a free event honoring the history and accomplishment of Black Wisconsinites. So that will be iconic. On Thursday, the Madison Senior Center will celebrate with an event that boasts barbecue, live music, lawn games, and socializing. So happy to hear that. Keep it grooving over there. Keep it moving. Move them hips. And yeah, there's also, speaking of moving your hips, some dance options, live music if you want to catch it. The R&B American band Kinfolk is performing at the High Noon Saloon at 7 p.m. on Juneteenth. And there's Juneteenth at the Majestic with a host of Black artists at 9 p.m. If you heard of No Love Monday, Flame the Ruler, Uchi Kinte, 2 DJs, there are lots of places to get down and celebrate and dance. And I want to touch base with y'all about how you celebrate June 19th. For me personally, the past 2 years, it's been a federal holiday. I do the same thing, rest, which I'm happy about. But I also love the idea of celebrating in community. What about y'all? Do you have any thoughts about how you recognize the holiday?
I love the idea of being in community. I think that like Juneteenth is not something that I really learned about a lot, either in like high school, college, or really anything. I think interestingly enough, UW-Madison does not give June 19th off as a paid holiday. It's a federal holiday, not a state holiday. So take it up with the state there, right? But I do think, like you said, Bianca, being in community, taking, as a white person, an opportunity to educate and to listen and to, I don't know, I usually like watch a documentary or something because that's my preferred means of learning and engagement.
Yeah, for me, I think it's kind of a combination of both of those things a little bit. Juneteenth also tends to fall around Father's Day, and I'm biracial. My dad is Black. I try and spend the day with my family and doing something that's restful. The last couple of years, I have gone fishing with my dad, and I really think of it as kind of like something that has been passed down generationally because I know he learned from his dad and it's kind of a tradition in our family. So yeah, it's been really meaningful to me. This year, it's kind of our Father's Day celebration. So my nieces and nephews will be there too. And it's something that means a lot to me. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, obsessed. Reclaiming our peace and family and connection. I'm also biracial by that way. My dad is Black. It makes me think maybe something that he loved to do is watch Kung Fu movies. And we certainly barbecue was a big thing for us. So maybe I'll do a little bit of that. Anyway, as a little background, if folks don't know, because Haley, I feel the exact same way as you. I wasn't taught anything about Juneteenth in high school. So just to give a little background, Juneteenth is a combination of June and 19th, and it marks like a really specific event that happened 2 years after President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on June 19th, 1865. When Union soldiers reached Galveston, Texas to enforce the proclamation, which of course was not being heeded. And after that, there were celebrations abound the following year. And yeah, it's really one of the oldest celebrated Black American holidays. So happy Juneteenth to all who celebrate. And to reiterate, we here on CityCast Madison will be off this Friday. So we'll remind you again later in the week, but just giving you that flag. That does it for today. Liz Boyd, our Madison extraordinaire, outdoor enthusiast, photographer queen. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah. And Haley Sperling, our executive producer, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Madison newsletter. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who likes to celebrate Juneteenth or someone who likes to bike? Maybe even there's an overlap there. Find that person. All right, y'all. See you back here tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great day.